After all the rumors surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason, I think the most craziest one just happened in the last few days. So, we all know how Brandon Aiyuk actually fully requested a trade out of San Francisco. Well, now, just the last few days, I'm seeing that the Steelers fans are proposing Alex Highsmith be traded in a deal for Brandon Aiyuk to bring him to Pittsburgh. And that just makes zero sense, both from a football perspective and from a money and team perspective. And here's why. But first, before I get more into it, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. Also, like the video. Now, let's get right back into it. So, the reason why this makes zero complete sense for the Steelers to do this is from a money perspective. Yes, you could look at it from a football perspective and say, hey, who would replace Alex Highsmith? Is Nick Herbig ready to step up? We're not going to get into that right now. Let's get into it from a money perspective. It makes zero sense. The Steelers literally restructured his contract, specifically his contract, before the draft, because Omar Khan said they want to be prepared just in case if a deal goes down, that the contract is restructured and they have some free space to move with. What does restructuring the contract look like? Well, that pushes the money back, and that actually guarantees more money and kind of leaves dead cap if something happens in terms of a cut or a trade with that player. So they literally restructured his contract specifically, meaning that if they were to trade him, you know how much dead cap they would have towards the salary cap? It would be a lot. Let me just go through the numbers really quickly. So, Alex Highsmith, if he were to be cut or if he were to be traded, obviously he would not be cut. So if he were to be traded in the Brandon Aiyuk trade, he would result in a $22.408 million in dead cap money for the Pittsburgh Steelers. $5.602 million charged in the 2024 season and $16.806 million next season, 2025. And you're telling me that people are really proposing Alex Highsmith in a trade for Brandon Aiyuk. It just does not make sense, especially from that money perspective. And they wouldn't restructure his contract if they were planning on trading him in the deal for Brandon Aiyuk. They would have restructured someone else's contract, so they wouldn't have had this dead cap. So a trade with Alex Highsmith involving Brandon Aiyuk is just not going to happen. And I've seen it on social media the last few days, basically saying, hey, if we could give up Alex Highsmith, maybe we won't have to give up as much draft capital, and it could help save towards the salary cap. Because, hey, Brandon Aiyuk will be making, $30 million. And if you trade someone who's kind of matching salaries, then it won't take as much money to kind of sign Brandon Aiyuk or towards the salary cap. Well, it will, because of the dead cap money on Alex Highsmith's contract, because of the restructure. So it doesn't make sense from that perspective. So enough with that topic. Enough with Alex Highsmith being proposed in this deal. Also, another thing about proposing Alex Highsmith in a trade for Brandon Aiyuk, it just doesn't make sense from a football perspective either. Are you telling me that the wide receiver position is so much more valuable than the edge rusher position? You're telling me all these wide receivers that have become really, really good over the last few seasons there's not going to be any more of them. There's never going to be any more wide receivers in the draft that pan out. Never no more wide receivers that become available. You're telling me that Brandon Aiyuk is top tier wide receiver. And you're telling me that the draft is just not a thing anymore. And all these wide receivers that have come out in the last few years in the draft, top end talents that panned out after year 1 or year 2, that is just not going to happen anymore. Well, it will happen. And there will be more wide receivers. And Brandon Aiyuk's now the only wide receiver in the league. And the edge rusher position is more valuable, I believe, in terms of top end talent than the wide receiver position. Because yes, there's so many good wide receivers. There's so many good second tier wide receivers, third tier wide receivers. But the fall off from the top edge rushers, it's a big cliff. If you don't have a top end guy, the next level of edge rushers isn't as great as the next level as wide receivers. So having Alex Highsmith as a top tier edge rusher, trading him for a top tier wide receiver in Brandon Aiyuk, it just doesn't match. You can find top receivers or at least wide receivers that could replicate what other players do based on the quarterback play. You could find wide receivers so much easier then you could find edge rushers, outside linebackers who could get to the quarterback. So it just does not make sense if you would do a swap in that scenario, Alex Highsmith and Brian Aiyuk. And it doesn't make sense from a team's perspective looking into the future of this team. In a few years from now, I keep bringing this up, in a few years from now, 1 or 2 seasons, you're going to see George Pickens. He's going to need a contract. And he's going to be wanting the $30 million range that Brent Aiyuk wants now. He's going to be wanting that $30 million range because he believes he's the best receiver in the league, and he believes that he should be making more than some other guys. And he's going to want that $30 million. And then we're going to have Brent Aiyuk on the team. Just say we have Brent Aiyuk on the team. Are we really going to pay 2 receivers? Brent Aiyuk wants $30 million, and he would get $30 million if he signs with the Steelers or gets traded to the Steelers. That means that the Steelers already would give him $30 million. Would you really pay George Pickens and Brent Aiyuk both $30 million per year? 2 receivers. When does that ever happen? 2 receivers, $30+ million each. That basically limits everything else you could do on offense. You basically have to rely upon drafting a rookie quarterback. Because I already said this in my last video or one of my other previous videos. Right now, you have Russell Wilson on the veteran minimum. When are you going to have a quarterback on the veteran minimum making 1.2, 1.3, or whatever it is, $2 million per season? When are you ever going to have that? A top tier quarterback on a minimum contract. Well, you have a really good, decent quarterback, maybe top 15 in the league, top 20, wherever he is, right now on a minimum deal. In the future, you're not going to have that. You're going to have to pay a quarterback, what, $40, $50 million, whatever they're making, top 10, top end quarterback money. So you're really going to have a quarterback making, what, $40 million, a wide receiver 30, another wide receiver 30. You're not going to have anywhere else to build your team. And the Steelers are already up for a lot of contracts with Pat Freiermuth coming up after the season, being a free agent. You have Najee Harris, a free agent. Jalen Warren, a free agent. James Daniels, a free agent. And no quarterback under contract next season. So they already have a lot of openings on their roster, and you're going to need to fill it with money. So you're going to have to expect the unexpected. Will the Steelers trade for Brent Aiyuk? No, I do not believe so. It just does not make sense from any perspective that you look at it. I actually couldn't believe when I seen it the last few days of Steelers fans proposing Alex Highsmith in a trade for Brent Aiyuk. Right away, I knew it didn't make sense from any perspective, from the money perspective, from the team building perspective, and you would basically be relying upon Nick Herbig to basically take that next step. And if he doesn't take that next step, then you have no outside linebacker next to TJ Watt. They could just double team every single time. With Alex Highsmith, at least it takes pressure, or it gives pressure to the defense. It gives pressure on the offense, because if you double team TJ Watt, then you're leaving Alex Highsmith one-on-one. So you can't double team TJ Watt every single time. Yes, if you have no Alex Highsmith on the opposite side, then 100% can double team TJ Watt every single time. So now, having Alex Highsmith, it takes the pressure off of the Steelers in terms of TJ Watt having to make a play, because Alex Highsmith can make a play. And it puts pressure on the offensive coordinator on the blocking scheme of who they want to take away. Obviously, going to take away TJ Watt, but it makes you at least double think and maybe not do it as much. Also, one last thing on this Brent Aiyuk topic is you have to stop being baited in by Brent Aiyuk. Just recently, he's been wearing Pittsburgh hats, Pittsburgh Pirates hats on social media on his live. He's also been liking a lot of pictures, a lot of videos that the Steelers actually posted on social media, liking posted pictures by George Pickens, and he's doing this all because he wants to sign a contract, and he probably wants to sign it with the 49ers, and he's just doing this because he wants a deal done. He wants a deal. Yes, he requested a trade officially from the 49ers, but this is all to get a new contract. Everything he's doing is a marketing scheme. It's for attention. It's for kind of the 49ers to have pressure on them to sign him to a contract. He wants out, or does he want a contract? I'm sure he wants a contract. So he's just doing this to get more money and trying to bait Steelers fans into having the pressure put on the 49ers for a deal to get done. So with that being said, that's my thoughts on this video. On this topic, on Alex Highsmith, on the Brent Aiyuk situation, everything like that. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Would you trade Alex Highsmith in a deal for Brent Aiyuk? Or do you think this just doesn't make sense like I do? Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. Training camp right around the corner, covering it all, from highlights and analysis, and I'm covering everything else, from news and updates and rumors. So, like, comment, and subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll see you guys all later. Until next time, I'm out. Peace.